right, folks, welcome back to News One Now. The Department of Justice under Jeff Sessions, they're going after Harvard University when it comes to race-based admissions. Out of all the issues DOJ can be focused on, they say, hey, we got to see what's going on. They believe that the elite Ivy League schools, they, of course, are somehow hurting white kids. Conservative critics say this is reverse discrimination. Now, their probe also parallels a lawsuit filed against the university by a group of Asian Americans who say they are being rejected with less qualified African American and Hispanic students and are admitted instead. Now, Harvard has not commented on the investigation, but released this statement to Newsweek. To become leaders in our diverse society, students must have the ability to work with people from different backgrounds, life experiences, and perspectives. Harvard remains committed to enrolling diverse classes of students. Harvard's admissions process considers each applicant as a whole person, and we review many factors consistent with the legal standards established by the U.S. Supreme Court. Joining us is Kristen Clark, President and Executive Director of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. Y'all were able to get information from DOJ about this review. What have you found?
So, well, let's back up. Ed Blum, you'll recall, is somebody who orchestrates a lot of efforts to attack civil rights. He recruited Abigail Fisher and brought this unsuccessful challenge to the affirmative action policy in place at the University of Texas. He went after the Voting Rights Act, and now he's set his sights on tearing down affirmative action efforts at elite colleges and universities. What's remarkable, Roland, is that we still have a long way to go. African Americans and Latinos are more underrepresented at elite major colleges and universities today than they were 35 years ago.
I think we have a graphic for that, so we can pull the graphic up. So this is Harvard's class of 2021, to your point, 50.8% minority groups, 22.2% Asian, 14.6% African American, 11.6% Latino, 2.5% Native American or Pacific Islander. And what's interesting, that, to your point, the Asian students are saying, oh, there will be far more Asian students getting to Harvard. So what's interesting, Asians have been benefiting from affirmative action programs. Now they want to tear down the affirmative action program because they say more of us could get into Harvard and other elite institutions.
Right, right. And so Ed Blum started this group called Students for Fair Admissions. And, you know, he's out looking for Asian American students who will kind of be this wedge group to help him, you know, mount these claims against affirmative action efforts at colleges and universities.
So a group that has benefited is now wants to get rid of it.
Right, but there are not many students actually lining up behind Ed Blum. So if you actually look behind his effort, there aren't many people there. What we did was we filed a Freedom of Information Act request. This is a law that can help shine a spotlight on government efforts and actions. We filed a public records request, and we got information whereby the Justice Department confirmed that they have no investigation presently into the affirmative action efforts at UNC, but with respect to Harvard, they said, look, we can't disclose, which makes pretty plain and clear that there is something happening inside the Justice Department with respect to Harvard. There are two big cases, sleeper cases, pending in the country right now. One affirmative action challenge brought by Blum against UNC, one by Harvard. The Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law is in both cases. We think we still have a long way to go. Fighting for racial diversity on colleges and universities is an important principle that we should all stand up for. This Justice Department should be focused on addressing the underrepresentation of blacks and Latinos. And so we're seeking to shine a spotlight on all that Jeff Sessions is doing to obstruct and turn the clock back on civil rights enforcement.
The thing that I explain to people is that white students today do benefit from segregation, from racism, because if you have a legacy in university admissions, that means that today you're benefiting because your grandfather or grandmother could have gone to the university at the time when mine could not. So 2004, President George W. Bush is speaking to the Union Journalists of Color Convention, and this is when the affirmative action case was going before the United States Supreme Court. I was one of the 4 folks who got a chance to ask him a question. Most people probably haven't seen this. Check this out.
Mr. President, you said, quote, quotas are an unfair
All right, so we're going to try to,
with regards to your opposition to affirmative action.
so we're going to see if we get this. Do we have the, is the video going through? Let's see here.
No.
All right, so we're going to try to get that going. Spencer, I think you had a statement. Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so glad that you're covering this and the Lawyers Committee is stepping up to the plate on this. As we're all focused on North Korea and other things that are really important, right? There is a narrow group of ideologues who are attempting to roll back voting rights, who are attempting to undermine educational opportunity for folks of color, who are trying to undermine housing opportunities. And again, this is a narrow partisan group that's really politicizing the Department of Justice. When I was at the Department of Justice, we received FOIA requests and all these things when we were dealing with issues like reentry and smart on crime and other things, right? So it's great to see the Lawyers Committee step up to the plate and say, what's going on?
Right.
Let's shine a light on what you're doing that really runs counter to you know, our nation's interests.
We have to hold them accountable. And next week, Jeff Sessions actually will appear before the Senate for the first time for an oversight hearing. And the main issue that the Senate should focus on is all that's going awry and is broken inside the Civil Rights Division. We have seen the work of the division politicized at every turn. We're seeing Jeff Sessions operate at the behest of really radical fringe figures like Ed Blum, investigating reverse discrimination at a moment where white supremacists are marching in the streets is deeply, deeply troubling.
Well, I would say that I don't know if they're fringe people. Let's be very clear. This is about repairing the breach to whiteness that occurred with the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Right. And Title VI really is supposed to address discrimination in education. But what we see is they are weaponizing the courts because after the Bakke decision, affirmative action was basically eviscerated. So it's about diversity instead of addressing past discrimination. And so what they're doing now is trying to repair whiteness using, as you said, the Asian community as a Trojan horse so that they can look like perhaps California, where you can say, let's not discriminate based on race. So yes, we can let a third of the population in universities be Asian, but that will mean that our repaired whiteness will allow us to have our privilege again and will get rid of the black and brown students. This is an attack.
I mean, look, this administration continues to chip away very silently, and I don't have very much hope for when Sessions goes up to the Hill. He's one of them.
That's right.
They're not going to ask the tough questions. They're going to let him do what he will. But he's always been this way. And people like Steve Bannon and young Stephen Miller still in the White House, these are the people that are propping up white supremacy, and they're doing it craftily through policies like this. I mean, like we said, there was so much the Department of Justice can be focusing on right now, but to wedge groups one against the other on an issue like this is truly representing what people, I dare say, even people like Jared Kushner want. And he's, basically benefit from his legacy status at Harvard. I'd love to know what Harvard thinks of their alum.
Well, and again, so here's the deal. So I have a technical issue here. So I'm going to have this tomorrow because I want y'all to hear how Bush responded to the question about legacy. Trust me, you're going to be totally tripped out. Spencer, real quick, the thing about legacy also is that, again, this is largely benefiting white students. Right. They are still benefiting today from Jim Crow.
That's right. It's almost like a grandfather clause, right?
Yes.
This is not the Republican Party that ratified the 13th, the 14th, the 15th Amendment. It's the Republican Party that was created as a result of the Southern strategy that Nixon employed.
And Christian, it's the Republican Party, and this is what people also need to not fall for the okie doke. And that is, they all say, oh, Republicans, they made it possible for the Voting Rights Act and Civil Rights Act. No. Moderate Republicans did. Conservative Republicans aligned with white Southern Dixiecrats to filibuster and stop civil rights advancement. So it wasn't all Republicans during the 1960s who were in support of civil rights. That's a lie.
Right. And hey, and the people. It was the people marching in the streets who brought about those key civil rights laws. And now we have a Justice Department that is not committed to enforcing those laws and is, in fact, doing exactly the opposite. We need a Justice Department that is out there fighting on behalf of vulnerable communities, standing up for racial diversity, addressing the underrepresentation of blacks and Latinos. At the Lawyers Committee, we are litigating. We are using public records laws to shine a bright spotlight on all that is broken with this administration. If there are viewers in your audience who are not supporting civil rights organizations, I urge them to stand up and do so today. To support the work of the Lawyers Committee, you can visit our website, www.lawyerscommittee.org. Hit that donate button and help us stand up to the Department of Injustice.
All right, Kristen, we appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh, my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no. That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
News One Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.